group here. But I've been very keen to have people coming over and brainstorming in this space, any space that we are sitting in, and I like the idea of dialogue, which usually doesn't happen. So a few years back that was in my mind, and I started to call various different kind of people, to come and talk and be with us. Hi Pramila, you were able to find the place?
Yeah,
I'm so glad.
Hi.
So in the series, we've initially had a lot of singers coming over, but there was nothing concrete that we decided. And then we had a small space in Goa, and we decided to do something there, an initiative kind of a thing. So it kept on, the things were happening here in fragmented way, they were happening there in a fragmented way. So we sort of started calling this space Studio 365, which is actually the address of my home studio in Goa. But the Delhi chapter, we started calling it also Studio 365 because it becomes an idea then. It becomes more of an idea and not space. So we already had Janet some months back, a talk about placenta and childbirth, which was very interesting. She had given that talk, I think in Spain somewhere, and I coaxed her. I said, you have to come here and give that talk. Stella is here, so I requested her. Nilima is here, so she is going to be here. Pramila, please be comfortable because there is a lot happening. So Stella has been a very passionate wanderer, traveler all throughout, and she also has been working on the idea of, I'm sorry I will use the word energies, but that's what it is, and her passion for Matsyendranath and the yoginis, and she sort of started to work on that about 25 years back.
No, like 12.
12 years? But 25 years you've been coming to India?
Like 35.
35. So, and she has started to study about this whole cult, and there were different insights that we share with each other, and I thought it would be interesting to share it with everyone because there is not much space of talk nowadays, or dialogue, so I thought this was the best space to sit together and go ahead with it. In fact, at one point, Stella was saying, I hope I'm all right with going ahead with this. I said, absolutely fine. We should have these dialogues, which is so now closed, and we must talk about it. And we were traveling almost for 10 days in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, and so much of beauty has unearthed about knowledge, how easy it is and how difficult we have made it out to be. So Stella is here and she can now start.
Continue.
Yes.
So my voice is not as strong as yours, so maybe I will have this.
Yes.
You tell me if it is okay.
I think it will be better.
It is okay?
No, it's not on.
It's not on?
I'll switch it on.
Wait, I switch on?
Okay.
Volume.
No, it is not on.
My voice is not so strong, or you need to come all close.
So that's why she had put some chairs ahead.
Yes,
Come on.
It's not getting on. It's become red.
No,
Red is on, red is on.
Red is on?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
So,
I didn't know.
Good. So, we are going to talk about the differences. I need to find the good place. The differences between the Kama Sutra, the Erotic Temples, and the Tantric Temples. It's such a big theme that I was telling Sima, it's almost like inviting people to let's talk about sex.
Yeah, that's the topic she had given to me. I changed it.
No, but in reality, I think that I will speak without this.
Yes.
I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So, and we are not going to talk directly about sex, but we are going to talk about what is just before sex. This desire, this first thought, this spark that made the absolute to manifest. Because the absolute is completely complete. So this little tick that became the Big Bang, that is what is about desire and how this expressed in India and how it has been through ages, how it has manifested in different forms. So, first, my friend, sorry.
What happened?
So, no, is that I change here, but it's not changing. So, here is when I am talking about desire, and this spark that is beyond time, beyond age, beyond everything. This beautiful sculpture that we see here, even that is an old kind of Chamunda-like, and the man is also old, you see the desire that is there. You see this something, this is pure love, pure sensuality, even that they are old. So that is, we are going to talk a little bit about that. So, next please. For me, as we were just chatting, the first time I came to India, I was a young girl, I tried to look very Indian. I remember putting the sari, and I was not knowing that what I was different, it was because my Latin American ways were the way of walking, the way of looking directly to the man into the eyes, and all this was not Indian. And I went to Khajuraho, and for me that was because until that moment I was a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher. I became interested in India. I was reading the Upanishads, the Vedas, all the spiritual thing. But for me, everything was yoga, pure, sattvic. I was, since I was born, well, pure magic, I was eating very sattvic. I never liked onion, garlic, never liked meat. So really, all the yoga master thought that, oh, this is really a pure being. So I felt very pure and dressed in white. And then I come to Khajuraho. And oh my God, and I have met also many Indian people, very prude, all the ladies, very proper. And I see, what is this? So it was completely different from the austerity, renunciation, detachment, all the Puritan ideas. But I understood that there was something more, because at the same time that I was a yoga teacher, practitioner, and so on, I loved to study, compare religions. Here is something, but I was not getting what was the real connection. And the people that were the people that were guiding me in the temples, they were saying, this is Kama Sutra. And you go to the shops and you see Kama Sutra and the images of Khajuraho, so you start to be more confused. And I started to wanted to know what it was, so I learned, next please, next. Yeah. So what I got is that Kama Sutra was never a religious book, and this was temple, so that was something there that was not Kama Sutra, and it was the aphorism of love. And reading more, I found that it was more a lifestyle of a specific time that was the scholars, they don't get together to put a date, exact date, but they variated from 2 centuries before our era to even the 4th century. It's a large quantity of years, but somewhere there, these aphorisms came to life, but they deal more that how to find and to deal with a wife, what the duties of a wife are, how to deal with several wives, how to deal with courtesans, and how to, of course, enhance the masculine powers. That has been everywhere. If you see a shop somewhere, if it is a lot of people, it's an alcohol shop or a shop where they sell something to enhance the masculine power. So this, and it tells about 64 postures. But what I read, next please, it was that in those days, the first Kama Sutras, they were not images. The images we are mostly familiar, they were images from the Mughal time. And you see the windows are already very much Islamic windows, and you see that they are the paintings are there from that time. And the miniature painting style is there also, is what we have now. Of course, if you go now to any shop, there are thousands of Kama Sutra, the modern Kama Sutra, all kind of sexual, everything is there. Even, I didn't read, but even Chopra have now one that he said that spiritual sex or something like that. I haven't look at that. But I like when I talk about India, because I do give talks a little bit here and there, I like to put this specific map of India, not only for the languages, but for the variety. So when we are going to go now deeper in different themes, which India? We see that, no. Remind here. We see that a language creates a culture. How many cultures are there? And this is only India, but it was also Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, all these form part of the same thing. So this big country with so many languages, so many different also castes, so many different centuries, because when we are now going to have interactive dialogue, I am sure that every one of us will have different points of view, and we are all being right, but it's because the range of time is so big. India has this kind of recorded history of 45 centuries. It's a lot of years. If you come from the Indus Valley time until now, it's so amazing, enormous quantity of time that in Puranas, in verses, in Vedas, in so many ways has been more or less recorded, or in sculpture, in art. So we are talking about a huge amount of time with different levels and different cultures. So in this context, everything is right. And what happened is that the scholars never they don't come and say this is the only truth. And when we travel, we see that there are many truths. So now we come back to this interrogation that I was having. So it is the Khajuraho temples were not Kama Sutra, definitely not, because one is a social text of society, behavior, and the other is, and for a very specific kind of society. It was the rich people, etc. It was very niche. So that was not, so why they were these sculptures, erotic sculptures in the temple? So I was trying to find, and in the Puranas, that they say how the gods, how the temple should be constructed. The Agni Purana has so many details, but nothing about the erotic. There is nothing written that you should say that or you should say that. The only person that helped me with this quest, it was this book, The Erotic Sculpture of India, from the Vandana, they say. And if you have the opportunity of read, it's fascinating. And she just opened windows. No, she's never telling it is like that, but she opened windows of what could be. Next, please. And we see that these couples, what she postulates is that in India, very often these couples were putting in temples, that also some behaviors in the fields, they were copulating before planting the seeds, that this was some kind of good augurious. No. That was good, it was in a purpose. So maybe these kind of couples that were there. This is from the 3rd century, and it was also in the Buddhist kind of caves that they were having. Also in the Jains, the first temples that we have in India are in caves, because probably the others, they were made in wood and so on, so that from the other streams we don't have so many, but from the Buddhist and Jain temples, and in those caves in Karnataka is one area that is very ancient, more among the oldest sacred spaces, and I have seen that they are these mitunas. That, next please. Here you see Buddha teaching, and the couples are next, and some women with the breasts. And this is what it calls the difference. Normally, mituna means a couple that is in some kind of amorous starting situation. And next we have already maituna, it means more sexual, but also it means sexual pleasure. And here we can see that here in Khajuraho, those that we were seeing, the girl is having pleasure, the man is having pleasure, and it's a couple also having pleasure. So this, but you start to think, why? Why these sculptures are there in the temple? So some people, the guide said, one I remember was telling me, you know, in India they were, almost nobody was, because they were not doing sex, everybody was just meditating, and so no procreation, so they needed some stimulation. I said, oh, really? But then I see this, and this is not for procreation, this is an orgy. This is stuff, it's an image that is rather with animals. It's not exactly to inspire, to create more people. It's an orgy. So these kind of images, I understood that it was this magical, religious, like maybe like the carnival. That yesterday was the Tuesday of Carnival, and is this to legitimate a space of cows in order to recreate something. But in the difference with the carnival, that everything is allowed, and the temples is that in the temples is on the wall. Here is a day that is like that, a day that everything is allowed. In Panama, they have very much, I was born in Panama, and they have this carnival. And the women that Janet will like, the women that are pregnant, they cannot go and dance with all the others, but they go to a patio, and what they do, they dance with each other, and they say, they swear, and they say dirty things, and they scream that, and people from outside can hear, but they are just getting all these thing going out. So it's very interesting, and that is for the carnival. That means carnaval, it means the end of the